Would it make you the jerk for refusing to thank my boyfriend after he booked a hotel for me? We'll get to that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for not giving the neighbor's kids candy? I, 21-year-old female, live with my parents in the Netherlands. Here we have a tradition on November 11th called Sint Maarten. It's where kids make their own lanterns, go door to door, sing songs for candy, kinda like trick-or-treating. In my neighborhood, we have a rule that the kids and their parents can only come to the door for candy between 6 and 7 p.m. No sooner and no later. It's also a rule that the houses who participate need to have a candle outside next to the door. No candle means no songs or candy. Now we have new neighbors. They moved here 6 months ago, but this is the first time they participated here. With 4 kids between 9-ish and 15-ish, so of course they're welcome to participate. Now, I was home alone during Sint Maarten because my parents were with my aunt who's really sick. I was really busy with my projects for college, but between 6 and 7 p.m., I happily put a candle next to the door and prepared a bowl of candy. Many kids came to sing songs and it was adorable. At 7 p.m., I blew out the candle, grabbed the rest of the candy to snack on, there were 3 pieces left, and went back to my projects. I had a deadline that evening. Around 9 p.m., the bell rang. I opened the door and there were the new neighbors. The kids immediately started singing songs. I didn't know what to do, and when they were done, I politely told them the planned hour for Sint Maarten was already over. The mom said that they couldn't participate then, because absolutely couldn't miss her TV show and that her husband was grocery shopping. Now, I'd like to point out that we have a group chat with all the adults in the neighborhood, and each year the rules are repeated. These new neighbors are also in this chat. I told them that it wasn't my fault that they had other priorities and that I didn't have a candle outside. The mom told me that because I had the decorative lights above the front door on, they assumed that I was still participating. I explained the rules again and told them that it had to be a candle outside the door to prevent confusion. She asked me if I was really going to deny her kids candy after they sang me a song. I told them that we didn't have anything left and she got even more mad. I pointed out that even if I had any left, I wouldn't have had enough for all her kids. She demanded that I go and find candy for her kids. When I told her that the best I could do was some fruit, she scoffed and said that I'd ruined Sint Maarten for her kids. The kids started whining for candy, and the mom told them that I didn't have any for them. In the meantime, it was almost 9:30. My deadline was for 11, and I still had a lot to do. I was tired, stressed, and had a headache, so I was grumpy. I still tried to be as polite as possible and told them that I had to get back to my project. The next day, there was a message in the group chat from the mom saying that her kids were disappointed that they couldn't participate and that she expected better from a neighborhood with so many kids. So, am I the jerk? So ordinarily I would give my thoughts here, but instead I'm gonna knock down the fourth wall and share with you guys that while reading that, I had to pause the recording for like 5 minutes. I could not stop laughing. So apologies if that was distracting, but to answer the question, no, NTA. Let's get back on track, I promise guys, it won't happen again. Yukita V commented, NTA, you had nothing to give them and they knew the rules. They decided TV was more important than participating in the event. The kids' disappointment is on the parents, not you. You followed the rules, and they didn't even want to take your very generous offer of fruit when you should have offered nothing since the event was over. Guys, I'm sorry, you gotta appreciate the authenticity, right? Whew. Also, hi, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Am I the Jerk videos, it would be awesome if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to our podcast. That said, our next story is, Am I the jerk for yelling at a customer while on the clock? I, 24-year-old female, currently work at a Hooters in Texas. It was a busy day dealing with gross men, so I was already in a bit of a mood, but one customer stood out to me. It was mid-shift when a group of older guys came in and were sat down in my section. There was one guy in particular who was eyeing me up and down right when I asked them if they wanted to start with drinks. He looked to be about 45 to 50 years old and was balding. We'll call him Jeff. Immediate red flag. They all ordered margaritas and Jeff asked me if I was going to ask for ID. I laughed and started to close at my book and walked away. As I turned around, he whistled at me and was holding his ID. I politely took it and gave a 2-second glance before handing it back. The other guys at the table seemed to be just as uncomfortable as I was. The whistling really got me going, but I remained calm because I got bills to pay and tips with these types are usually good. When I came back with the drinks, Jeff commented on my hair, saying it lays nicely on my chest, whatever that means, and I didn't know what to say. It was clear the other guys were super uncomfortable, as was I. I said a polite thank you and got started on their food. Fast forward, after the orders and food had made its way to the table, I did my usual check-in. I could hear them laughing from across the restaurant, and they seemed to go quiet as I approached. I was able to make out Jeff saying, "Watch this." When I got up to ask if everything was tasting all right, Jeff looked at the guys at the table and said, "It's tasting great, but can we talk about those lips? Are they natural? If so, you've got a perfect set of lips." Everyone at the table and in the general vicinity went quiet because, what? Like, that had to be a double meaning, but I was too grossed out to think of it. About 20 minutes go by without checking on them, and one of Jeff's friends signaled me for the check, so I brought it over and asked the usual together or separate. Jeff insisted on paying, so I handed the bill to him and waited for him to finish up and then thanked them for coming in. As they were leaving, I saw Jeff's friend start to put a $20 bill on the table, and Jeff told him to put it away. When I looked at the check to make sure it went through, I saw a big fat zero by the tip. This is where I got a little petty, but mind you, I kept a very good composure the whole time I served them, so I asked if there was a problem with the service. Jeff smiled and said, "Maybe next time pull your shirt down a little or wear a smaller size." I lost it. I told him that the job was bad enough having to flaunt around like some show pony, but guys like him make it even worse. I even told him that the world would be better without bald-headed freaks like himself. Then I walked away. I'm not proud of it, but he was just so gross. And I'm used to the occasional stares because it comes with the job, I guess, but this rubbed me the wrong way. Anyways, I have a meeting with my boss tomorrow and I'm expecting the worst. So am I the jerk? This guy was just a straight-up creepazoid. And even though you're on the clock, I don't think that just dismisses your morals as soon as you check in for work. So you have to stand your ground and let him know that he's not being appropriate at all. Whether I'm working or not, you're still a human being and you deserve to be treated as such. So no, NTA. Okay, Pineapples commented, "NTA, 2 of my exes worked at Hoots Twin Peaks. Recently, when I lived in Florida, I lived in the same apartments near the Hoots where some of them lived and was a regular there. I became really close to everyone, the girls, the managers, their boyfriends. I'm mid-30s and my ex-girlfriend and I used to chill there a lot. I've seen and heard every bad thing, sugar daddy situations, men asking girls to step on their foot or spit in their drinks for extra money, stalkers, men grabbing chicks, fights, and every lame pickup line under the sun. What you experienced was crappy and that dude deserved what happened. You did what 100% of women would want to do. Unfortunately, corporate may have some rules about flipping out and you may get a warning, depending on seniority or previous write-ups, how many regulars you have, etc. Since he was being really inappropriate, I'm 100% sure your boss is going to have your back and you shouldn't worry. Hooters corporate policy also states that disrespect towards women and its employees are not to be tolerated, and managers have the right to remove guys like that who cross the line and make you feel uncomfortable. If this happens again, as it probably will, just go straight to your manager and let them know you're uncomfortable and the crap the guy says. I'm sorry that beauty is sometimes a curse and that this economy forces some to have to endure those situations. Keep working towards your dreams and don't let these freaks bring you down." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing an impossible demand from my fair weather bio dad? PSA for any confusion. My bio father, Jane, transitioned when I was 15 and lives as a lesbian woman. I, 41-year-old male, grew up entirely with my single mother. Jane, 77-year-old female, but a cis man at the time, was a CEO entrepreneur who met my mom because she was scraping by as one of his assembly line workers. Jane abandoned me after I was born because, quote, taking care of a baby is impractical while running a business. And my mother already has another kid, so it makes more sense. As I grew, Jane dropped in 1 to 2 times a year to take me on short trips to places she wanted to see. Then she would send my mom angry letters afterwards about how improper it was that I sipped the milk directly from my cereal bowl and didn't own 3 levels of clothing for different events. When I was 18, Jane got herself an absolutely wretched girlfriend who would later become her wife. Lena, 67-year-old female, is a trust fund baby who has never worked a real day in her life and has 3 spoiled, rotten children. For decades, her relationship with Jane consisted of screaming fights, outrageous jealousy, possessiveness, vindictiveness, and hyper-controlling aggression marked by explosive tantrums and verbal assaults on everyone else in Jane's life. Many years ago in my early 30s, she publicly attacked me at Jane's birthday dinner over a completely incorrect idea of why I parted ways with an ex-partner years earlier. She did this in front of my current partner and demanded outrageous and intrusive details about my private life over it. I calmly told her it was none of her business and I left. Amends were never made because, unsurprisingly, Lena never took responsibility for her outrageous behavior. A few years later, Jane finally divorced Lena, but in the aftermath, we never really got much closer because, frankly, I don't really trust Jane and she's never been there for me. She still only reaches out to me when it's convenient for her, and shows zero reflection on how a lifetime of parental neglect affected me and complicated every part of the way I grew up and found a place in the world. Recently, Jane has decided not just to reconcile with Lena, but that they will soon remarry. She now wants me to accept and forgive all past gripes and grievances as she has, and become one big happy family. I've held my ground and refused to allow someone so unstable back into my life, and especially around my wife or children. To be honest, I'm morally offended by Jane's cluelessness, and in our last conversation, I lost my temper and told her off. How can someone who put in a less than 1% effort for 41 years now come around demanding the moon and stars from me? Her position is that if I don't allow this toxic, volatile person back into my life, she will disinherit me. I told her to go freak herself. Last week, a relative reached out and asked me to go to therapy and reconcile. Her argument? The holidays are coming and it's inconvenient that we're estranged. I'm at wit's end here. Look, OP, you're an adult and not just a young adult. You're in your 40s, so you certainly don't need to adhere to this gaslighting from your somewhat unstable parent who has treated you like crap for most of your life. They don't dictate the terms of your relationship, you do, so yeah, I would go no contact, keep them at arm's length, and ultimately if your heart softens over time and you want to reconcile, it's on your terms, not theirs. Only Memory 2627 commented, NTA, feel free to remind the wannabe mediator relative of all the crap that Jane and Lena have pulled over the years, but try to do it calmly. You don't have to, but consider if you'd be willing to talk if one or both of them sincerely apologizes, or if there are other actions they could take that would convince you to try again. The mediator relative could convey your conditions, but again, you don't have to do anything for these people. OP responded saying, I have put down expected conditions of sincere apologies in writing many times. Jane gets deeply offended every time, as she fervently believes it's a misunderstanding, and not a matter of human decency and fundamental respect for others, as I do. It's one thing to privately ask a person something about themselves or their past that you don't understand, and get told there's a boundary, then move on. It is 100% another thing to scream outrageous accusations at someone in a crowded restaurant and make a humiliating scene that gets the staff involved, then expect to be unconditionally forgiven the next day when your misunderstanding is pointed out. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not doing anything to help my parents afford treatments for my brother? When my brother, 18-year-old male, was 4 and I, 16-year-old female, was 2, he was diagnosed with a blood cancer. He's been sick for a little while, and our parents thought he had a flu or something, so they didn't get him all the help right away, and because of that guilt, they devoted every second to him from that point forward. It was supposed to be until he was cancer-free, but by the time he was, we were 8 and 6, and they had become so used to focusing on him alone. I spent most of my time with an uncle who lived nearby or neighbors when he was undergoing treatment. My uncle didn't like having me nearby, and the neighbors were so busy with their own kids that I got pretty used to being ignored and forgotten. So when my brother was back home and I wasn't sent anywhere anymore, I was more used to being alone somewhere and taking care of myself. My relationship with my parents was never a close one, and it's the same with my brother. Both of us feel more like only kids, and he gave me crap before telling our parents I'd like some of their attention too. They'd always tell me he needed it more and he considered me a drama queen. The last time I said anything, which was like 3 years ago, he said he didn't realize boys could be as dramatic as girls. My brother's cancer came back 5 years ago, and it was dealt with early, and he didn't have treatment for very long, and after that, he seemed better in all ways. He had more energy, appetite was better, and he was doing stuff he'd never had the energy to do before. About a year ago, my mom's parents moved closer to us, and they spent time focused on me, which bonded me to them pretty quickly. I spend a lot of time with them now. I also took my focus totally off my parents and wanting their attention. In July, my brother's cancer returned again, but it's different this time. I wasn't given much info. Treatments are complicated, I guess, and some other countries have treatments we're not focused on yet. So there's talk of him going to Germany and I think Switzerland, but I could be wrong since I don't get much info. My parents are working more hours to help pay for this, and since then I spend even more time with my grandparents, sometimes spending the night with them. My lack of presence wasn't noted until they wanted me to help raise the money and maybe offer to get tested if that's what's needed. They said I could start fundraisers and get a job. I already have one, but my parents never noticed. I told them I wasn't going to help with that and that it was for the three of them to figure out. I got yelled at and my grandparents stepped in and said I wasn't responsible for this. My parents were saying it was helping the family, my own brother, and how could I consider not doing anything to help? Am I the jerk? You know, this story kind of toes the line here, so I think it's important to get clarification on whether or not OP is able to help in choosing not to, or is unable to help and therefore just saying, hey, like, I can't help with this. One's petty and honest, the other one is just honest, right? But regardless, your parents, your family has kind of kept you at arm's length, so, I mean, you're allowed to feel some kind of way about this. But if you're doing it just to spite, it's not like your brother asked to have cancer or anything like that. So, I don't know, kind of on the fence. Let's see what some of the comments say. Old_inevitable8553 commented, NTA, first off, you deserve some love and attention from your parents, who are morons not only for ignoring you, but expecting you to help pay for treatments. You're a child, not the parent, so it's not on you to do anything of that bullcrap. Second, I don't care what condition your brother has. That doesn't give him the right to treat you badly or act like a spoiled brat. He should have been called on that a long time ago and put in his place. And third, the "he's your brother, your family" card is a load of crap. You don't owe him or anyone else a thing. Both he and your parents are jerks and need to get over themselves, just like they need to realize what crappy people they are for doing all of this to you. Predictable Toast responded saying that it's family logic is only ever believed when the party using it has neglected or abused the person they're trying to get to buy the logic. When I cut my dad out of my life, I would always respond with, "And I'm his kid. Didn't make him treat me the way you want me to treat him. You should ask him why." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because of how she treated me during my engagement? I, 27-year-old female, am currently planning my wedding, which is in a few months. My sister, 30-year-old female, and I have had a rocky relationship for a while, but I still considered her important enough to be part of my big day. However, things changed drastically over the past year. When I got engaged, I was super excited and naturally shared the news with family first. My sister didn't react the way I expected. Instead of being happy for me, she seemed almost dismissive and changed the subject whenever I brought up the wedding. I tried to ignore it, thinking she might just be going through her own stuff. But then, every time we'd get together with family, she'd make subtle digs about my wedding choices. She'd say things like, "Oh, you're doing a small wedding? That's different." Or, "I hope the food won't be too cheap." It felt like she was constantly judging everything I planned. I confronted her once, asking if she had an issue with the wedding, and she just laughed it off, saying I was being too sensitive. The tipping point came a month ago at a family gathering. She made a joke about how, quote, "it's a miracle anyone would put up with me for life," right in front of my fiancé and his family. I was mortified. I pulled her aside and asked her to stop, but she got defensive, saying she was just joking and that I needed to relax. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, and honestly, I don't want her negative energy on my wedding day. I want it to be a happy, drama-free day, so I decided not to invite her, and of course, that caused a huge fallout with my family. My parents think I'm overreacting and that I'm tearing the family apart, but I feel like I need to prioritize my own peace and happiness. Am I the jerk for uninviting my sister from my wedding because of her constant negativity? No, you're not the jerk in this situation. Look, you vocalized and expressed that some comments that she's made have bothered you, and she's continuing to do so. So you've made the effort to kind of like low-key reconcile. She's not having anything of it, and she's trying to play innocent by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just joking." Yeah, BS. I would give it one more shot, sit down with her, just one-on-one, no parents involved, hash it out, and if you can't, then absolutely give her the boot. Comfortable C2454 commented, NTA, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, and honestly, I don't want her negative energy on my wedding day. I want it to be a happy, drama-free day. So I decided not to invite her, and of course that caused a huge fallout with my family. My parents think I'm overreacting and that I'm tearing the family apart, but I feel like I need to prioritize my own peace and happiness. Am I the jerk for uninviting my sister from my wedding because of her constant negativity? Your sister sounds as jealous as feck. However, think long and hard about what possible ramifications it will have in your family if you do exclude her. But before excluding her, with your parents and fiancé in the room, tell her point blank that if she can't be happy for you and stop being so negative, then she won't be welcome. A wedding is a place for positive energy and love, not backstabbing. Our next story is, am I the jerk for calling out my cousin for constantly bringing up my ex at family gatherings? I, 27-year-old female, recently had an awkward confrontation with my cousin, Sarah, 30-year-old female, over her constant habit of bringing up my ex, Matt, at family events. For context, I dated Matt for 4 years, and we broke up over a year ago. While it was an amicable split, I've moved on, but it seems like Sarah hasn't. Every time we're around family, she finds a way to mention Matt, how much she misses him or how no one else will measure up. This weekend, during a family dinner, she did it again, this time saying she couldn't believe I hadn't tried to work things out with him. I got frustrated and, maybe a bit too loudly, told her to stop bringing her up and that her comments were hurtful, as I've already moved on. I even said something like, "If you liked him so much, why didn't you date him?" Sarah got visibly upset and called me sensitive in front of everyone, saying she was only joking and missed having Matt around because he was like family. My aunt later told me I embarrassed Sarah and that I should have spoken to her privately, especially since she didn't mean anything by it. Now I'm wondering if I took it too far. Am I the jerk for calling her out publicly? So this is almost a carbon copy of the previous story that we read before this. No, you're not the jerk. Someone says something that you don't appreciate about you, and you vocalize it. You say, hey, I don't really appreciate those comments. They make me feel uncomfortable, whatever. And if they continue to do so, then, you have to be willing to live and die by that sword, as they say. So when someone finally blows up and tells you basically to shut up, no, you don't get to then turn the tables and play the victim. So no, NTA. Squirrels are evil 2479 commented, NTA, Sarah didn't mind publicly asking you if you were trying to get back with Matt because she thought it was a good idea. She thinks it's perfectly fine to speak publicly about your dating choices, but doesn't think it's okay for you to disagree with her in public. There's a word for that. Oh wait, I remember. It's called hypocrisy. She then claims 1, you're too sensitive, 2, it was a joke as if there was something funny, 3, you embarrassed her, not the possibility that she embarrassed you, and 4, you should have spoken to her privately about what she said to you publicly. She needs to pick a reason and stick with it. Do not apologize. The whole situation was instigated by her, and she's not the victim here. OP responded saying, you really summed it up well. It's frustrating when someone dishes it out but can't take it. Thank you for the support. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting it go when my car got totaled? I, 17-year-old male, am a senior in the southern US. The towns near mine are small, so my town and 2 others combine to make the high school. There are elementary and middle schools in all 3 towns, though, so I hadn't met any of the people there until 9th grade. Last Thursday, when I got to school, there were 2 open parking spots next to each other, so I parked there. Everything was fine until the end of the day. My friends, Mark and Joe, were coming over to my house, but we got to my car and I saw it was wrecked. Both of the left side doors were dented all the way from the back to the front. My side view mirror was completely gone. My left tail light was smashed and the bumper was hanging off. Neither door on the left could open, so I couldn't get in. The car that had parked next to me was gone, but whoever was there did it. Mark and Joe were shocked and I was kneeling in disbelief. I called my dad and he said to stay there and he'd leave work. He called the police, but I was still in shock, so he talked to them before they asked me what happened. I told them what I knew, which was not a lot, and they drove me home while my dad talked to them for a little while longer. Me, Mark, and Joe went back to mine, and my dad came home a little while later. He said they'd see what they could do, but there are no cameras in the parking lot, so there was no video. Then Mark yelled he knows who did it. He had texted his girlfriend and told her about my car, and she said she saw a girl, Annie, driving and the right side of her truck was ruined. Joe had texted his brother and he said that he saw Annie park next to me since her truck is bright red. Annie lives in another town, but she seemed fine. We weren't friends, but we knew similar people, so we hung out sometimes. Annie has a massive pickup truck, but she doesn't really need one. Her mom's a teacher, her dad's an elementary principal, and Annie works at a grocery store. Me, Mark, and Joe drove over to Annie's house to see if her truck was damaged. Her truck was in her driveway, her right headlight was broken, and her right doors were scraped. Annie ran out of her house and asked if she hit my car. She freaked out and was yelling. Her dad ran up and said he'd call the cops if we didn't scram, so we left. Friday morning, I got called into the principal's, Mr. S.'s office. Annie, her dad, and her uncle, the police chief, were there. I tried to say I knew Annie hit my car, but Mr. S told me there was a report I harassed Annie at her house. I tried to explain and ask if I could call my dad, but the principal said that they have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment and I was suspended. They told me to leave and the principal told me to just let it go, and then I can go back. I texted my friends and most of them told me Annie is crazy and they're with me, but some told me that I should chill because Annie didn't mean to hit my car. So am I the jerk? Should I have just let it go? Sorry for the long post. So first of all, this question doesn't even need to be asked, right? This girl not only hit your car, just absolutely tore it up and then drove off. So we've already got a hit and run. And then when you go to her house just to get some clarification on what happened, they then file a suit that you harassed her? Like in what world is this okay? And two, no, there's no reason to ask. You're not the jerk. This is some corrupt BS, and I hope you get out of it somehow and get your car fixed. Kim Pitzer commented, NTA, I would at this point politely at first request the investigation be done by your county police or state police. Her uncle being the chief of police is a huge conflict of interest, and it seems like they're completely ignoring the damage to your car that probably totaled it. In addition, make sure your insurance knows about all of this, including the uncle being chief of police. Police like him give the profession a bad name. I have family and friends who are police and law enforcement, and if they had had a family member do this, they would report the family member in a nanosecond. OK Meringue 6107 responded saying, I'd also be reporting the principal to the school board, or whoever's in charge, as OP was called into a meeting, bullied by 3 adults, and the person who damaged his car without having a parent there. OP, NTA, and do not let it go. Do what you can to get your car repaired and those responsible held accountable. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to thank my boyfriend and his parents because they booked a hotel for us without asking us first? I, 23-year-old female, and my boyfriend, 22-year-old male, we'll call him Mark, have been dating for a little over a year. His parents are absolutely horrible, the worst one being the mom. I've met his parents a couple times and they were nice to me. For the last 4 months, me and Mark have been long distance, and we're finally reuniting after 4 long months of not seeing each other. Our initial plan was to stay at Mark's parents' house, but they're having guests over, so they can't accommodate us, which is understandable. Me and Mark both still live at our folks' house because, well, living is expensive. Anyway, we decided to book a hotel or some place to stay. We've been looking for a few weeks now, and we finally found a place within our budget that seemed okay. Mark decided to ask his dad if he thought the place looked okay because his parents travel a lot and he trusts their judgment. Anyway, Mark asked his dad if the place looked okay. His dad said no. His dad suggested he'd help us look for a place. Fast forward a couple of days, and Mark's parents offered to pay for around half of the price of the hotel as a Christmas gift for Mark and as a "we're sorry you can't stay at our house" gift. Very generous and nice of them. This was a few hours ago. Fast forward a couple hours. Mark tells me, don't worry about the hotel, my parents took care of it. I asked him what he meant, and he told me his parents had chosen and booked a place for us to stay. I'm confused and asked Mark if his parents had asked him if we thought the place was okay, since we're the ones who are actually staying there. He said no. Is that a problem? I said, yes it is. How can they book it without asking us first? And he said he was sorry and that we still have to pay for half of it. I'm very upset because I think it's quite careless of them to book a place for me and Mark to stay and expect us to pay for half of it, even though we don't even know where we're staying or how much we're paying. They only told us after they booked it, and not even immediately after. Me and Mark have been having a long conversation about this, and I feel like his parents did this on purpose to control us, which is something they constantly do to Mark, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. and I said I'm really mad at the whole situation and his parents. All this time, he's acting a bit too chill about it to my taste, and I asked him how he was feeling about it. He tells me he's a bit annoyed, but he's not mad at them because they were trying. Mark is now mad at me for being ungrateful. Am I the jerk for now being mad at my boyfriend too because he isn't really holding his parents accountable for how they treated me and him? Or am I just being too dramatic and a horrible and ungrateful girlfriend? I really don't know. So it's not often that I administer YTAs on this channel, but in this particular case, OP, you seem nice, but YTA. When someone's doing you a favor or doing really anything to make your life a little bit easier, to try to dictate the terms of that I think is a little tacky. I mean, it's kind of like if someone's giving you a gift and you say, you know what, I don't want this gift. I'm pissed because you didn't give me that gift. So if you want to select your own hotel and all of that, then that's fine. Pay for it yourself. You don't have to accept this olive branch if it really makes you that upset. So, hate to say it, but yeah, YTA. Days1984 commented, "You're getting a better hotel and only paying half. Mark is correct, you're being ungrateful. You have offered no explanation for why his parents are horrible, even saying they were nice to you when you've met." With that being said, that's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like and comment below, and if you want to check out our other videos, click the video on the right. With that being said, I'll see you all next time.